When teams have a clear mission and time bound vision, they're enabled to work productively and efficiently, both as a unit and independently. In this episode of This Meeting Sucks, we're going to walk you through the fourth phase in our MeetingMakers Framework, visioning. We will review why it's important to get aligned on the past and the present before stepping into visioning, and take you through our mission and vision agenda template, which you can access for free on Session Lab using the link in the description. I'm your host, Lauren Green, meeting coach and facilitation trainer, here to help you unsuck your meetings one episode at a time. I've helped hundreds of professionals and organizations through leading inclusive, engaging, and productive meetings, and now I'm offering this podcast to help you do the same. Think of this podcast as an ongoing workshop, where each time you tune in, you'll get a bite-sized nugget of knowledge you can apply right away. If you lead meetings or might someday, you're in the right place. Let's make your meetings work. Recently, I had the opportunity to do visual note-taking for a public school leadership conference with over 1,300 county leaders, school administrators, teachers, and other school leaders. When the superintendent took the stage, the room erupted with applause. As the spirited superintendent started in on her talk, I realized exactly why she was so revered. She had a clear vision for the county and what her expectations were for everyone in the room. First, she went through wins and shortcomings from the past year. In her second objective, she led an energizing but sobering presentation on the generational divide between students and teachers. And for her third objective, she ended with a hopeful message for the future and her expectations for everyone in the room to aspire to, giving clear examples of how to show up to get there. It was clear to me that this organization knew their mission and had a clear, measurable, and achievable vision, and they knew on an individual level what they could do to support it. Let's talk future, meeting makers. Up to this point in Season 4, we have focused on initiating a team or project, building trust, and aligning around the past, present, customers, and process for working together. But most of the time, when people hear the term strategic planning, they think of the future and words like vision, mission, target, and goals. But what happens when a team starts on the future without spending time on the past and the present? Imagine you're trying to assemble a complex piece of furniture without the instruction manual. You've laid out all the pieces and even started piecing bits together based on what you think fits where. About halfway through, you realize that something isn't aligning and the structure isn't as stable as it should be. To move forward effectively, you need to step back, find the manual, and understand the earlier steps you might have missed or misunderstood. This careful review of the past work ensures that you build a solid, stable structure for the future, avoiding the risk of having to dismantle everything and start over. Just like assembling furniture, you might know what you want to build, but without aligning it first, you might not end up where you had hoped. In our opening example of the superintendent's talk, she talked through where they were and where they are before painting a picture of the future. And for teams, it works the same way. In the William Bridges change model, Bridges notes that people go through a period of letting go before embracing a neutral zone and finally being able to imagine new beginnings. In other words, we have to deal with the past and embrace where we are before we're ready to commit to a new future. All that being said, be sure to listen to episodes 1 through 7 before this one, especially if you're on a team that has already been working together. If you're on a team that is just starting out, you can skip episode 4 on aligning the past and save episode 7 on aligning process for later. Now let's talk about visioning the future. Terms like mission, vision, goals, target, horizon, perspective, stages get thrown around all the time without much meaning. When it comes to visioning the future, it's important to have a clear understanding of what these terms mean, why they are important, and what they can do for your team. First, mission. Back in episode 2, we talked about a team charter, which may include a purpose statement that was established by the team leader. Purpose and mission are very similar. It's the why of the team. Or, as I like to say, it's what the world would look like if your team were no longer needed. The example I use all the time is from my days at the Washington Humane Society, whose mission and tagline was DC loves DC animals. Because if all of DC loved all of its animals, we wouldn't need a humane society. Mission is evergreen and always true. Unless the core of your business or organization changes, your mission never will. In some cases, the team leader will establish the mission or purpose, or it will come from a higher authority. We are including an activity to help you establish a mission if you feel like this is a missing piece in your team. Vision, on the other hand, is time bound. A mission is evergreen, a vision is time bound. A vision represents a future that we're trying to achieve towards our mission within a certain amount of time. To come up with a vision, you might ask a team, what can we reasonably do in the next year towards our mission? You are creating a 1-year picture or vision of where the team hopes to be. Most of the time, when you visit an organization's website, what's written on the About page is the mission. The vision may or may not be articulated publicly on the website, but internally, employees may be aware of their 2030 or 2050 vision. Usually, visions have a year attached to them. Some organizations use other terms to represent vision, such as target or impact. All of these are okay, but the important thing is that they represent a time-bound picture of where we hope to be, aligned to the organization's mission. In the opening example, the superintendent had 3 objectives for their 2025 vision. The first 2 had been the focus of the last several years, and the final one became the focus of the 2024 through 2025 school year. This seemed to enable a good deal of clarity, as she wasn't trying to add too much at once, but call attention to successes and gaps in their existing vision. To further illustrate this, let's highlight some examples of both mission and vision statements with a made-up organization that we will call Green Horizons. Green Horizons' mission is a world where thriving forests, clean rivers, and resilient grasslands safeguard biodiversity, strengthen local economies, and help stabilize our global climate. By 2030, Green Horizons will complete local restoration projects and support communities in adopting everyday practices that protect nearby forests and rivers. See the difference? The first statement is not going to change, but the second statement with the year attached is a clear and timely vision. Here's another example with an organization that we'll call Global Classrooms. The mission of Global Classrooms Initiative is to provide quality education and learning resources to children and communities disrupted by poverty, conflict, or disaster, regardless of geography, culture, or circumstance. By 2030, Global Classrooms Initiative will establish rapid deployment learning hubs that ensure children in crisis zones can resume schooling within 30 days. After the break, we're going to walk you through our agenda for defining your team's mission and vision, including a step-by-step process for building buy-in and commitment around shared purpose and future aims. You can find our free Session Lab template linked in the description, along with our Mural online whiteboard or printer-friendly poster templates available for purchase. Welcome back, Meeting Makers. What we've got for you in this workshop takes about a day. But if you're only doing mission, it would just take half a day. And if you're only doing vision, again, about a half a day. Or you can always modify by splitting up our template into multiple online meetings that take place in shorter bursts. We start our day at 9 o'clock and end at 5, but of course, your day may look different depending on your organization. Just like in all of our agenda templates, we start with a welcome and kickoff by the team leader or leadership sponsor. We've included a script in our Session Lab agenda template that you can use if it's helpful. And then we walk through the agenda and agreements. Just like in all of our templates, we give suggested agreements, or you can come up with your own or invite the team to come up with their own. From there, we've got space to do introductions, although if you are working with a team that's already existing, you may not need to do introductions, but you could at least do a quick go around and have each person share a hope for today's meeting. Next, we've got an energizer. This one takes about 15 minutes, and we call it Choose an Image. It is based on the Center for Creative Leadership's Visual Explorer. And what you do is you find images and print them out, display them on a wall or across a table or even on the floor. Or you can purchase the Visual Explorer deck from the Center for Creative Leadership. You invite participants to select an image that represents a hope for the future of the team. Now, you can use Choose an Image with just about any prompt for a meeting, but since we are talking about the future, we have chosen the prompt represents a hope for the future of the team. Each person will share their image and why they chose it. And then you reflect after everyone has shared. What did you notice? Were there any surprises? And I love including this question, why do this activity before a conversation about mission and vision? End the activity by highlighting that images help us learn about ourselves and others, and this activity has helped prime our thinking for the discussions for the day. If you are doing an online meeting, you can put some images on a slide, and I often number the images so that people can say, I chose image number 1, I chose image number 2. You could even put them on an online whiteboard and have people put a virtual sticky note with their name on or next to the image that they chose. Now we get into the meat of the day. Framing takes a little while, but you need that time to prime people's brains, get them relaxed in order for them to be able to then do some deep thinking. We have broken up our mission statement building activity into a few phases. First, they brainstorm language, then they consolidate that language, they share it out, and finally, they draft their statements. By doing this process in a step-by-step way, the act of having to write a mission statement, which might seem lofty, just becomes a step-by-step activity that is actually quite fun. You're going to want to clarify terms because, like most people, your team members may not know that a mission statement is evergreen and a vision statement is time-bound. You can even use my Washington Humane Society example and state that a mission is what the world would look like if we were no longer needed. Preferably before the meeting, you will have set up the space with 5 flip chart stations around the room. And on each station, there's going to be a question. The question for the first station is, who are we? Station number 2 is, what do we do? Station number 3 is, who do we serve? Station number 4 is, what makes us unique? And statement number 5 is, why? Those are your 5 stations. Who are we? What do we do? Who do we serve? What makes us unique? And why? And you invite participants to form small groups, no more than 8, and they spend about 10 minutes at each chart answering the questions. Once they rotate, they are going to have to first review what others have written before they add their own thoughts. And if they like anything that others have written, they could add a +1 or even augment it with their own language. If you're working in an online meeting, you could do this in a shared document, and you could use a virtual broadcast message to let groups know when it's time to switch to a different question, a different place in the document. That piece we've given an hour because, again, there are 5 questions and 10 minutes per question, and you may want to give a minute or 2 to transition between each one. Now, I do have some groups that say we don't need all of those questions. That's fine. The top ones that you definitely want to include are, what do we do, who do we serve, and why? So as long as you have those 3, that's enough, and then you can shorten the time a bit. Then we've got about a 15-minute break, and then we go to part 2, which is consolidation. You invite participants to take about 20 minutes and revisit each chart. And they're going to add dots or check marks next to 3 words, phrases, or concepts per chart that resonate the most. Then you ask participants to regroup at their original station and review what people have voted on, and then consolidate 3 themes or summary statements that represent the question at your station. In other words, by the end of this activity, each of those stations has a clearly written summary. And that's going to be important because in the next activity, we have a share out. We want to invite each group to take a few minutes to share those themes and that summary from their poster. And if they've already done the sense making, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do that. Between each group sharing out, you can invite participants to share clarifying questions so that they can better understand what the summary statements mean. If the groups start to wordsmith each other's language, gently discourage that by letting them know that the goal of the share out process is just to hear the summary statements, not necessarily to come up with the mission statement just yet. Wordsmithing will come a little bit later. Now we've got a lunch break. After lunch, we do a 15-minute energizer. This one is called Quotes. Provide participants with 5 to 10 inspirational quotes printed or displayed on a slide. Invite them to think of a quote that they find inspirational. If they can't think of one, they can use one from what you've supplied. Give each participant a chance to share their quote and why they picked it. And then reflect. What makes a quote meaningful? What observations do you have about the quotes that we chose? What does this say about our team and what's important to us? Encourage individuals to share briefly so that there's time for everyone to share. That gets us primed and ready to do the final part of our mission statement activity, which is actually drafting the mission statements. We do this Mad Lib style. If you remember the game Mad Libs, where you have a sentence with fill in the blanks, we've designed this activity to follow a similar structure. The structure of the Mad Libs is directly aligned to the questions that we asked on the station. Ask participants to work with a partner or a trio and revisit the charts using the words that were summarized to write a mission statement. They do not need to use all of the words, but here's structure that they can follow. Group name R, something from the Who We Are chart, that provide something from the What We Do chart, to something from the Who We Serve chart, with some kind of unique trait so they can why. Let's do that again. Group R, who we are, that provide what we do, to who we serve, with unique trait so they can why. Now what happens is, and you can note this for the group, the first version might be pretty long, especially if they tried to bake in a lot of content from the chart. So they're going to have to pick and choose the language that they want. As time allows, if they have more time, they can consolidate their language into something short and inspiring. We provide a few examples of this as inspiration. Amazon, to be Earth's most customer-centric company where people can find and discover anything they want to buy online. Headspace has one mission: to improve health and happiness of the world. I bet Headspace did an activity like this, and it was a lot longer until they got to that consolidated version. Trader Joe's, to give our customers the best food and beverage values that they can find anywhere and to provide them with the information required to make informed buying decisions. So that step of coming up with a mission statement, at least 15 minutes will be needed. And then as the final step, invite each pair to partner up with another group and combine the best of both statements. Give them another 15 minutes and aim for a clear, consolidated, and inspiring statement. If they come up with more than one, that's okay. But the goal here is to give the group an opportunity to think creatively, combine language, and then work with each other to combine even more language and get creative. If you're working online, it might be easiest to do this just as one round in groups of 4 to 5. In other words, skip the partner step because you'll create a lot of drag when you have to create more than one breakout group. The goal of this is to get to that evergreen single statement that represents what our team does. We ask each group to present their statements and collect them all on a flip chart, slide, or other shared space. If there is an existing mission statement, you can add it to the mix for comparison. Then invite the participants to review all of the mission statements and propose a combined statement or two that capture the best aspects of the existing statements. To prevent an energy drop from wordsmithing this to death with a large group after going through the shareouts, ask 2 to 3 volunteers to use the drafts to create a final version that everybody can vote on or give final feedback on during a break or even after the event. Now we're going to take a break about 15 minutes and we're going into our visioning session. If you didn't do mission, then you would start here. We love doing a very popular activity called a cover story vision. There are many different versions of cover story vision. A very popular one is from the Grove, and others have adapted their own cover story visions. The purpose of this activity is to give people a way to think about vision in a way that's not too scary. Let me break it down. You imagine if our team were featured on the cover of a major magazine in 2030, what magazine would it be? What would be on the cover? Who would be interviewed? What might some of the big headlines be? What quotes might you read? And by doing the cover story vision, even though some people might think, oh, that's too hokey or that's too silly, it's easier for people to imagine a vision in this concrete format than it is to just say, where do we want to be in 5 years? So seriously consider this as a way in, as an easy doorway into thinking about the future. And if you don't like cover vision, then say, what if we were on the homepage of New York Times website? You can come up with your own way of representing that similar idea. You're going to work in small groups, and each group is going to do their own cover story vision. I've already given you the questions, and again, they are in our free session lab template. And then you give participants about 30 to 40 minutes to create a poster that includes the headlines, who's going to be interviewed, what's on the cover, what are some of the quotes. We have created our own cover story vision template that you can print out and give to groups, as well as our mural board. You can also, if you like the Grove's version, you can go to the Grove Tools website and you can grab their version of it. There are lots of different variations on cover vision that are out there, and you can pick the one that you think your group will like the most. We like it when people draw because visuals give us more data. But if people don't like to draw, bring some magazines, have them cut out pictures of magazines and newspapers and glue it onto their chart so they don't have to draw if they don't want to. The groups hang up their posters on the wall, and you can invite them to do a gallery walk and observe the other group's posters. And we've given this about an hour. So then we have our share out, and you want to give groups about 2 to 5 minutes to present their poster and time them. One of my tips for timing is when they're running out of time, to gradually walk closer to them or hold up time cards, but try not to let this get away from you too much. Invite participants to take notes on themes that they hear as other groups are sharing, and that's going to be very, very important. After all of the groups present, invite participants to share what themes they observed and capture them. So if we were a team that was representing a neighborhood HOA and we're doing our vision for the future, we might hear this theme coming up that we're hosting all of these beautiful community events. And that's a theme we want to capture. And it sounds like doing community events is very important to us. Meeting community seems to be very important to us, bringing people together. You're listening for the language that runs across the board and gives us a sense of what is it that we really want. There are different options to capture some of these themes. You could use a virtual polling tool, so Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere. You could have people go into small groups and discuss what they heard from the posters and then have those groups share out, maybe their top 3 themes per group. But it's important for this to gather up the themes and cluster them together in some way. We've given this 45 minutes, and that's not just for the share outs. It's to extract those themes and to cluster them. And then we've got our final break. Now we are getting into consolidating those themes into vision elements and drafting a vision statement. If needed, you can start by ensuring that all clusters of the themes are clear by asking the group if they would like to combine or rearrange any of them. So that's just a check on, do you like the themes? Do you like what we have? Does anyone disagree? Then you invite small groups to identify which theme clusters they might like to write a summary statement for. This statement will represent one element of the vision, and it should be written as a clear sentence and in the present tense. When we write things in the present tense, we begin to think about how to bring that future into the here and now. It should complete the phrase, "We envision a future where." So, for example, we envision a future where our community can gather and meet each other in a safe space. We envision a future where our clients express gratitude and enthusiasm for our services. You're creating these single phrases that represent those themes that came up in the posters that we've consolidated. And it's easier to do this by handing off those clusters of themes to different groups. Depending on how many clusters you have and how many groups, you might have to give some groups more than one cluster to work on. And you're going to give them about 15 to 20 minutes to work on this. Before you hand off those clusters into the small groups, take a picture of them just in case you want to go back through those sticky notes and make sure that nothing was missed in the process of consolidating that data. Next, you allow groups to share their summary statements and invite edits. Aim to make this process visual using a flip chart or an online whiteboard so everyone can see the final statements. Once all the statements are shared, ask, is there anyone who wants to try to create a unifying vision statement that is representative of all of the themes? Groups may want a couple of minutes in silence to think about that. How do we create a unifying vision statement? If there's time, you could ask small groups to work on a unifying statement that they can then share with the group. So break out again and have each of the groups spend 15 or 20 minutes writing a single statement. But likely, the group will not finish that single vision statement during this meeting. Just like in the mission statement, we may not have arrived at 100%, but we might have reached a 70 to 80% solution and can invite reflections on how this process went. This is also where AI is your friend. AI can take the content that has been created in this and write up a vision. If you need a vision statement, you could query it to do that. If you need it to write up a narrative vision, something that might be a couple of paragraphs, it can do that. If you need it to create content for a website, you could do that. Now that you've had the content that came from the humans, the AI can go and take it a step further. So to close this up, we recommend expressing that we've reached a 70 to 80% here and congratulate the team, and then ask each person to share an aspect of the vision that really excites and inspires them. Just like in the mission statement, we recommend having volunteers raise their hands to finalize the vision elements and statements after the meeting, and then present them back for final feedback and edits after the fact. So, meeting makers, with a clear mission and time-bound vision intact, your team is ready to map the way forward with actionable steps and strategies, which we're going to cover in the next episode and meeting agenda walkthrough. The future is bright, meeting makers, and we will get there one meeting at a time. Let's make your meetings work. This podcast was written by Lauren Green and produced by Caitlin Murray. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a few seconds to rate and review so future meeting makers can find our community. You can find our next Meeting Makers Academy workshop on our website at www.makemeetings.work/academy. Want help with your next meeting? Reach out at makemeetings.work/contact and we'll set up time to chat.